Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I am Sidney Garrett, Curatorial Assistant and Arts Coordinator at Project Row Houses. I'll be leading the info session today. So let's get to the next screen. Okay, so the Idea Fund is administered mostly by Diverse Works with Aurora Picture Show and Project Row Houses as supporting partners, and we are funded by the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. Our mission at Idea Fund is to provide grants for artist-generated or artist-centered projects that exemplify unconventional, interventionist, conceptual, entrepreneurial, participatory, or guerrilla artistic practices. So our first round at Idea Fund was administered in 2009. And since then, we have supported a total of 133 projects involving over 456 artists/artist collectives. This year, we have supported 65 artists in need as part of Round 13 Emergency Relief Grant in response to COVID-19. And we have supported creative communities within the greater Houston metropolitan area and the 9 surrounding counties, which I will go into what those 9 surrounding counties are in a moment. So, the Idea Fund timeline. Applications have launched. They launched on September 21st, 2020. The next info session will be Tuesday, November 10th at 4 p.m. So after this info session, if you decide that you want to attend another or invite someone else to apply, please register for that info session. Application deadline will be November 16th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. 11:59 p.m. is very important as applications will not be accepted past that time. Jury review will happen in December 2020. Acceptance notifications will go out January of 2021. And an award reception for accepted applicants will happen in February of 2021. Oh, and then final report for the accepted applicants once they go through the program will happen in December of 2021. Okay, so who can apply? The Idea Fund supports individual artists, curators, collectives, or collaboratives. If applying as a group, the collective or collaborative can be long-standing or created specifically for the project. So if you are applying as a group, the lead artist of your group must reside in the 9 counties, which are shown here on the left. Those 9 counties are Austin County, Waller County, Montgomery, Liberty, Chambers, Harris, Fort Bend, Galveston, and Brazoria. All past TIF project grant and TIF emergency relief grant recipients are eligible to apply for round 14. While anyone can apply, round 14 will support artist-driven projects with an emphasis on cultural and social equity. So what projects are ineligible? Projects proposed by 501c3 nonprofit organizations will be ineligible. Group projects where the lead artist or all artists reside outside of the 9 eligible greater Houston area counties are also ineligible. Projects that do not have a public/community component are ineligible. And projects that do not exemplify innovative practices in contemporary art will also be ineligible. What type of projects will be funded? The Idea Fund is committed to new risk-taking forms that help to define new practices in contemporary art. Project activities must function primarily within or have a strong connection to the visual arts. And then we list a few examples of visual arts practices, but the list is, of course, not limited to painting, drawing, sculpture, social practice, performance, film/video, photography, textiles, ceramics, cross-disciplinary, public art, new media, sound, digital processes, and etc. So now I will get into some examples of past supported projects. I also don't think I mentioned, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the Q&A section, and I will get back to them at the end of the presentation. So if you go to our website, which is theideafund.org.org, you'll land on our homepage and you can go hover over grant recipients. When you hover over this, you'll be able to see all of the past rounds that we have held. So let's go to round 6. So when you go to a round, you'll be able to click on any of the past projects and learn more about that project. So we're going to click on Sign Language by Philip Pyle. So Sign Language was a continuation of a project that Philip was already working on. It was a guerrilla street art project where he created a third ward civic club that focused on neighborhood beautification through graphic yard signs and door-to-door marketing techniques carried out by a team of volunteers. So when you click Learn More, it will take you to his website, and then you can browse through his website to find out more about his Idea Fund project and his work in general. Then let's look at one more. Can go into round 11. Scroll down and let's look at Rising Tide Projects by Jessica Nincy and Dan Schmal. So the Rising Tide Projects it's continuing to this day, an artist-run hybrid space that serves as equal parts gallery, workshop, community space, and retail hub that takes into the consideration of architectural issues associated with Galveston Island's environmental future. So then again, you can click on the link, which this one actually takes you to their Instagram account. And you can scroll through here and learn more about their ongoing project. So that part of the website really gives you a good idea of what we have funded in the past, in case you're wondering if your project fits with Idea Fund. So specifically talking about round 14, for round 14, we are looking to support artist-driven projects with an emphasis in cultural and social equity. Round 14 envisions artist-led community projects that will also double as COVID-19 relief funds, which I will get into towards the end. And we will be awarding 12 visual art projects with the amount of $5,000 each. Let's get into the application. So tidbit of the application, first of all, the application will ask you for project summary and description, your resume and CV, budget and budget description, and 5 work samples, which you will see in one second. So again, go to the website, which is theideafund.org. On our homepage, you'll then be able to read more about round 14, and you can press this blue Apply Now button. So when you get there, that information is then duplicated at the beginning. You keep scrolling down, and then we start the application. So your artist/group name, lead artist first name, lead artist last name. If you are applying as an individual artist, just duplicate the information in these spaces. Lead artist email, phone number, street address, all of the typical stuff. And then what county do you live in? Again, these are the 9 eligible counties. If you do not see your county in this checklist, then unfortunately you will not be eligible. And then we ask if you've been awarded an Idea Fund grant before. If yes, what year? And if no, how many times have you previously applied? These questions do not affect your eligibility. This is just for demographic purposes on our end. And then how did you hear about the Idea Fund? Okay, and then we hit the voluntary demographic survey. This is, as I just said, voluntary. And so if you do not wish to answer, you can select, I prefer not to answer. This, of course, does not affect any eligibility either. This is just for demographic purposes on our end, but you can skip if you wish. Okay, and then art practice/discipline. We have a long list here of possible practices that your project can be based in, but it is, of course, not limited to this list. So if you choose other, just select other. Your bio, artist resume, and CV. Actually, for both the bio and the CV, if you are applying as an individual, go ahead and submit those as normal. If you are applying as a group, submit a group bio as long as it does not go over the max of 500 words. And for the artistic resume or CV, we ask that the lead artist submit their resume or CV. If you are a group that has been working together for some time and you have a resume CV for that group, you can also submit that, and we will accept up to 5 files. Okay, link to a website, then the project description, project title, project summary. Think about the project summary as an elevator pitch. And then the longer project description is, hey, I'm interested in your elevator pitch, tell me more. This is where you get into the nitty-gritty details. And then the goal of your project, which is of course the why. How does your project relate to contemporary visual art? Please describe or explain how this project relates to contemporary visual art and/or visual culture. Feel free to include some of the influences, artists, collectives, or projects that might have influenced your work. And then, how does this project address cultural and social equity? This question is also optional, as you can apply with any project in round 14. We just ask that if it is addressing cultural and social equity to specify. And then we get into the budget, which is the fun part. So for your budget, please upload an Excel spreadsheet of your project's total expenses and income. While round 14 grants are project-based, when developing their budgets, applications are encouraged to consider their own needs and the needs of their community and potential collaborations in addition to direct production costs. So we do have a sample budget here that you can work off of if you find that to be helpful. If you have your own budget process document, you can submit that too. It doesn't have to be this one. When you get on this budget, it is editable, so you can modify this as needed and submit this document. So let's see. When we get into the budget, the first thing you will see under artists is artist fee. That means we are looking for you to pay yourself as well as the other artists involved, whether you're in a group or whatever your situation is. This in-kind column, think of in-kind as like a donation. So let's see. For example, if you're shooting a video and there's a photographer on site and you know the photographer and the photographer is like, hey, I'm just going to shoot these photos for you for free. Don't worry about it. That will be in kind. We still want you to document it on the budget sheet and then list what that cost would have been as a donation. Okay. And again, you can go through, edit, delete, add things as needed, whatever is appropriate for your project. And then at the end, you add it all up. This is your total expenses line, okay? Your total expenses line has to equal to your total income line. Now that is very important. So the red line has to equal the green. So under the green income, you enter the Idea Fund grant amount, which for round 14 will be $5,000. Any other grants that you might have received from the city or other organizations, that's totally okay. Just list it on your budget sheet. Any cash donations, this is where the in-kind costs will go. If your event has any ticket sales, you'll list that income, and any merch sales you'll list here. So then this green number here has to equal the total expenses. Let's go back to the application. And then right under that, we have a section for you to include any notes about your budget if you feel the need to clarify. And then we get into work samples. Here you can upload JPEGs, audio files, and Word documents or PDF. Video files should not be uploaded here, meaning this link, but through a Vimeo link below. If you are submitting a Vimeo link, please make sure that your video is not password protected. Okay, and then we also ask to submit work sample descriptions. And then you click to submit, or you can save to draft if you have to walk away and come back. So I know that was a lot of information, but I'll also go over some tips. So tip number 1, for project summary and description, keep it simple. Consider the following questions. Why do you want to do this project? Why now? Why is this important/urgent? And what are the core ideas/lines of inquiry behind your thoughts? We like process, but it is okay not to have everything figured out. So we understand that throughout a year of working on your project, things can change. But basically, tell us what your vision is and what you hope to achieve. How will it physically be presented? Where will it be presented? And who is your audience? So those are the key questions that you should make sure to hit through your application. For your budget, be detailed and realistic. If you have additional funding and or plan to apply with project budget beyond $5,000, explain where the money is coming from. Share your money research. How did you decide to pay $500 for your materials? And of course, pay yourself. It's very important. We recommend to pay yourself between 20 to 35% to cover creative and intellectual labor. For your work samples, share samples that support your work, including project plans. This will help the jurors understand your practice, interests, and the proposed project feasibility. Your work samples may include mock-ups, past work, new video, or new work, or video. We also encourage you to share descriptions and information about the project in the additional upload work description PDF. Okay, we'll get into some FAQs, and then I will be taking questions after this segment. So what types of projects are eligible for funding? Round 14 continues our mission to support artist-generated or artist-centered projects that exemplify unconventional, interventionist, conceptual, entrepreneurial, participatory, or guerrilla artistic practices within the greater Houston community. While anyone can apply, Round 14 will support artist-driven projects with an emphasis on cultural and social equity. What do we mean by hybrid COVID relief? So Round 14 envisions artist-led community projects across the greater Houston area that serve a dual function as COVID-19 pandemic relief for artist communities, as well as support for equity and representation of the diverse perspectives of artists and collectives throughout Houston's creative economy. This does not mean that your project has to focus on COVID. What we are asking is for you to consider if your project will allow you to distribute funds and or support your local network and communities through your creative practice. The idea is that your project will fold in people and that the release comes through your creative practice directly to your network, which might not be part of our traditional network. Okay, here's a list of a few types or examples that could be awarded and or fit within our mission/vision. Again, examples of these works can be found at ideafund.org, and then you hover over past projects, I believe, and you can go through and look through round 1 all the way up to present. Projects must adhere to COVID-19 safety precautions and restrictions to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved. This includes wearing masks, providing space for social distancing, and limiting groups to the size authorized by the Texas Department of Health and Houston Mayor's Office. What is the review process and selection criteria? So all proposals are evaluated based on the following criteria: the artistic and creative strength of the proposed projects, overall vision, capacity of applicants to realize the project, accessibility of the resulting project to the public, and project's demonstration of community support and commitment to serving a local constituency. A panel of professionals selects projects through an online and in-person panel process. The Idea Fund panelists offer national, regional, and local perspectives of the field. Traditionally, our TIFF panel model features the following perspectives. We usually try to get a partner from another city, a past Idea Fund recipient, and a panelist with national or regional perspective of the field. How many project proposals can I submit? You can submit as many as you'd like. Groups or collectives can submit one, and each member can submit multiple individual projects. Just note that the likelihood that a project with the same lead artist of a group/collective and individual project to be funded is slim. It is the ultimate decision of the panel jurors. Okay. That was a lot of information. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'll give everyone a few minutes. If you don't have any questions, thank you for joining. You may exit now if you wish. Okay, question. Is it better to submit recent works or works related to the medium that will be used in the project if these are old works? It is better to submit recent works or works that directly relate to your proposed project. So if you are proposing something that maybe is new or different from what you usually do, make sure that your work samples can be related back to that project. Or, as mentioned in the FAQs, you can submit mock-ups or drafts if that's appropriate for your project. Does the panel interview applicants, or is it solely based on your application? It is based on your application. To my knowledge, I don't think panelists have ever reached out for any additional questions. So I would bet on it being based on your application. Okay, are the jurors represented by the partners, or do the partners oversee the administration of the grant specifically? So the jury is selected by us, but Project Row House's Diverse Works and Aurora Picture Show are not a part of the jury process. We do oversee that process, but the selection is ultimately up to the jurors that we've selected. Can I share examples of artists that have been awarded more than once?
Off the top of my head, Bill Davenport has been awarded more than once. And I can't remember the exact years, though. I'd have to research that. Ashley, do you have any others that you can think of off the top of your head?
I know that there's been a few that have received smaller, like research grants, because the when we were awarding for that specific round, there was some extra funding left over, and we wanted to fund the next project. And then they have gone on and gotten additional funds. I want to say there have been some individuals as collectives who've applied as a group, and then also individually. All that information is also on our website, as well as the current free grantees. But Mike, I can send you some specific examples if you like.
Any suggestions for new artists who may not have an extended resume in the art field? Again, in your application, just show that you are, or focus on your why in the application and the project description. Focus on the goal and show that you are able to execute. Sorry, I might not have answered that question fully. Do one of y'all want to chime in again and help?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that, Sydney. It's not a requirement that you have a lot of experience as an artist. One year we even funded, it was a collaborative group of students from that were high school students. And so it's more about having an idea that is compelling and explaining that idea in a compelling way to the jurors, making them, giving them visualization on what your project is, and stating, why you want to do it and how you're going to do it, why it's important to you. So I think that that part of the application is important, and just do the best that you can with your work samples and your resume, and you can explain in your statement too that you're kind of new to this, and work with what you have to the best of your ability.
Thank you, Mary. So the next question, my group project is conceptual and the roster of artists is tentative. If selected, should the roster of artists match the final project as long as the general concept stays consistent to the original application? Again, we totally understand that projects change and things shift as time passes. If your list of artists change, that is okay. Focus on the why and the final presentation. But yeah, things can definitely change and flux as the project goes. Okay, how about YouTube videos? Are we able to submit those instead of Vimeo? I believe the link only supports Vimeo. Am I correct on that, Ashley?
I think you can submit. We recommend Vimeo because usually you can select more of a private. I think you can do that now with YouTube. But and there's also a question too on there about clarification. If you have more than one Vimeo link, you can upload a PDF with your videos as one of your work samples, but they would still count. So if you have 5 work samples and you're submitting 3 videos and you have to submit those 2 other links would be ideal. It's also recommended to splice videos together if you can, to show 3 different, works or combine them. That's sometimes helpful, but it's really up to you and what you feel is necessary and like how your other work samples will help support your work.
I'll add too that you don't want to put in so much video that the jurors won't have time to watch, lots of video. So, we that's why we have just one link. And let's see, somebody says, how would I do that? I think are you asking about how to combine samples together? You would just take your samples and basically make a new video. So you would have to edit them together. So make a new timeline, drop in your pieces that you want to in the single one. And I would include in there to put in some title cards to explain to the jurors what they're looking at. So you would just have to make a new video and export that and then upload that to Vimeo. And you would have to edit it to be fit within a time period. Again, the jurors aren't going to watch a super long thing. That's with any grants; they only watch a few minutes of it. So you'll just have to pick your favorite parts of it.
Yeah, we usually recommend 3 minutes, or 3 to 5. Like Mary said, it's not gonna be like they're gonna be reviewing it. Like they're reviewing anywhere between their first round of cuts, 120 to 140 applications. So they do sometimes move quickly through things. But you also, while we're talking about video links, make sure that it's, as Sidney said, not password protected. And the other thing is to make sure all your hyperlinks work, because there's a lot of times that as jurors will review applications, they'll go in and they actually can't watch the videos because the links don't work or they're password protected, or their websites are down if you're linking your website. And so those are really important to help the juror really see the things that you're sharing with them is making sure the links work.
Next question: if our work is performance-based, do you prefer samples of multiple performances edited in one reel, or would you like a sample of a single performance? Again, do what is most appropriate for the project that you are proposing, but just like Mary said, make sure to not overdo the videos in your application. If there are a lot of performance videos, you can create that clickable PDF link like Ashley and Mary just referred to, so that they're not all in one video file.
I would add too to pick work that supports your project proposal. So selecting work that has relevance to what your project proposal is. So if you're proposing that you want to make a documentary film, and you have maybe you have 4 different work samples that you can choose from. One being narrative, one being experimental, one being performance, and another being documentary. I would pick the documentary because that will help reinforce your ability to make documentaries. So you should pick work that supports your application and has some relevance. If it doesn't and you only have one to pick from, that's okay too. But if you have multiples to pick from, pick the work that's going to reinforce your project proposal.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, when does the project need to be completed if selected for funding? So final presentations for around 14 projects will happen in December of 2021, but your project can be ongoing past that. That's just our final day.
Yeah. Also, Sydney, for this round, because of everything that happened with COVID, we are able to offer extensions. So ideally, traditionally, the IDEA Fund is calendar year. But if you are not able to present your project before December 31, that is okay. It's just whoever needs an extension, there's a process in which you can apply for an extension. So,
okay, does it matter if the budget for the project is lower or only equal to the $5,000 provided by the Idea Fund?
It can be exactly $5,000. If it's low, if your budget's $1,000 and the grant's $5,000, the jurors might be like, they might raise a question. So I would try to find some ways to get it up to 5,000, so that it makes sense to the jurors, as to how the money's being spent. And again, think about how you can distribute that money to people in your community. So maybe you are like, well, it's only $1,000, but remember, you need to pay yourselves. Our hope is that you'll be paying other people in the community and kind of helping, by hiring people to help you. So I would try to get it up to 5,000 if possible.
Yeah.
Ashley, anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say also too, because this is a special round. Part of what the Warhol has also allowed us to do is if there is for some reason, in terms of paying yourself, and like maybe there's an extra $1,000 and you can make a case in terms of need for personal relief, you can also put that in there, or supplies and materials. So maybe you have your project is $4,000 and you have that $1,000 and you need a new camera lens, or you need certain software access for the year, and to help you finish, the project, or, do your work. So those are, we try not to limit what can be funded. I mean, as long as you're putting in your budget and it's explained why you're choosing to spend that money or why it's needed, and then the jurors will take that in consideration. But so we would definitely encourage you to, if it's lower than 5,000, to really think about where that money can go, and whatnot. If your project is a little lower, you can also put in there like a percentage for financial planning. All grants are individual grant distribution. So that means that the individual who is the lead applicant, or the person who is receiving the grant, will have be taxed on it. And so we recommend that they are thinking about the fees that will have to go to tax, to pay taxes, and for the 2021 cycle, so that you can put that in your budget as a budget item. So maybe you're paying, putting $250 for someone to review your taxes or something like that. That can be in the finances.
And this looks like it's the last question. If you're proposing an exhibition as a curator, would you prefer to see examples of work by artists that may be in the exhibition, or examples of personal artwork that may be similar? Make sure that your application is appropriate for what you are applying. So in saying that, I would say it would be more appropriate to show examples of work by the artists that may be in the exhibition. And maybe if you've curated any shows previously, if you have install photos of those exhibitions, you can submit those as well. And that's where you can elaborate on them in the work sample description portion of the application. Does the Idea Fund provide a venue to show the final projects, or should we find a venue and include it in the budget? Good question. So Project Row House's Aurora Picture Show and Diverse Works cannot and will not be a host for your project presentation, just because it will be a conflict of interest. So we do encourage you to find your own venue or space, and include that in your budget and in your proposal if possible.
I'm gonna jump in there real quick, which is that, especially during COVID times, it's not always possible to do something in person, in the public, and so online presentations are an option for you for this round as well.
is there a cap on artist fees? I assume that you're talking about the budget line of paying yourself. That budget line, so on average, artist fees should be about 20 to 35% of the fund. Let's see, what if we are doing administrative work in addition to performance / social practice? You can do that. The payment would still be 20 to 35%. If you find yourself doing more than, like you're doing the performance and social practice and administrative work, then maybe lean closer to the 30-35% range. And would it help to specify where time is being spent and bill the project at different hourly rates?
So I think with that, Sydney, in terms of, so you should have your artist fee, and you can explain how you got that artist fee. So like, if you're like if you're in terms of your creative and intellectual labor, like if you have a fee, if you work for somebody, like say it's $25 an hour, $30 an hour, then you can put in there like how you got it. But we do recommend that you're only spending between 25 and 35% of that grant to pay yourself, and the funds go out elsewhere. You can also list if you're going to be working beyond that 35%. Like say you're going to be designing a website, you know, it's going to take you at least 30 hours. And so if you can list that as in kind, so it also shows what type of in kind support you're putting into your projects or expertise in your projects that that could help the jurors understand how you plan to actually produce and present, or you know, work through stuff. You can also do that for any of your in kind. So like maybe you're going to be doing you're going to be hiring like Zoom pilots, and you're going to pay them. You can put that as, or you know, a certain fee which you've agreed upon. If it's traditionally larger, then you can put that also in your budget and explain that, like, you know, half of it is going to be paid, half of it's in kind. It's really going to depend on project to project and how you're really thinking about spending those funds in ways in which you can try to obtain in kind. If all of your stuff is in kind, and a lot of your budget is going to supplies, materials, the juror may have questions about that. So I would make sure that your in kind and supplies, materials is kind of balanced. So it's not like you're expecting, or like there's going to be a whole lot of the project that is going to be donated or in kind, so that way that the funds do, it's just a balanced and more distributed project.
Thank you, Ashley. Looks like that was the last question. If you have any other questions, feel free to email info@ideafund.org. Again, our next info session is happening on November 14th. Make sure to RSVP if you would like to attend again. And thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of your day.